The Elias Macko Show is always a learning experience, even for me. And one thing I have learned, you ask CJ8800 listeners about their favorite potato chips, and the text line will absolutely blow up. We love our potato chips. In just a few minutes' time, we're going to go to the science about why we are so addicted to diving into the chip bag. Before we get there, though, listen, I gotta just read some of these text messages on your favorite chips, the ones that are really standing out to me. So a listener writes me that there are Miss Vicky's. Those are great chips. I love the kettle cooked. I love the crunch. I love that stuff. Salt and vinegar, Miss Vicky's. Whew, I'm on board. There is apparently a Miss Vicky's Parmesan black truffle chip. Now, I hear that, I'm like, well, how much do these chips cost? $8,000? Black truffle? And now, Parmesan, the price of Parmesan is going through the roof. How expensive are these chips? And if they're the same price, well, then what kind of black truffle am I getting out there? But I got to vote here for that. A lot of people are saying Miss Vicky's, by the way, whether it's a jalapeno, or the salt and vinegar, getting all of those kettle chips. You guys love the crunch. I mentioned it on the Andrew Carter Morning Show that this weekend I tried the Ruffles Double Crunch, which are, like a ruffled chip. It's not like the traditional ruffle with the tiny ridges. It's like a regular ruffled chip, but it's kettle cooked, super crunchy. I enjoyed that. And here's just one thing. Before we get to our guest, I got a text message about tomahawk chips. And this is a chip that is made by a First Nations community, I believe in Manitoba, okay? And they're very hard to find here. But it was just a couple of weeks ago. I ordered something from Amazon. It was a knife block, a magnetic knife block. And while I'm ordering this one thing, I said, okay, let me just order a food item here. And I saw these tomahawk chips I'd seen online. Somebody said to me, Elias, you got to try tomahawk chips. So I said, okay, let me order these chips. So I ordered two things, the knife block, right? The magnetic knife holder, and these tomahawk chips. And I was like, okay, this is great. I kind of felt good about buying a chip that I'd never had, and it comes from a First Nations community. I was like, okay, this is good. I felt good about it. Then I get the magnetic knife block arrive in the mail on one day. The next day, 4 80-gram bags of chips arrived in a gigantic box filled with plastic air packs as well. And I just felt so wasteful about it. So I don't think I'll order it online again, but if I see it in the store, definitely would reorder. Let's get to Isabelle Marquis, food marketing expert and nutritionist, here to let us know why we constantly reach over to the chip bag. Isabelle, thanks so much for coming on the show.
My pleasure. Good morning, Alice.
You've heard our listeners are crazy about their chips. I'm crazy about my chips. What about you? You're a nutritionist. You're an expert here. Are you also diving into the chip bag too often?
I wouldn't say too often, but I definitely do. And it's something that I've kind of developed, I would say, quite recently, because I'm more a sweet tooth than a salty tooth, to be very honest. But this being said, I mean, let's be frank, it's hard to resist.
Yes, and
really
the hard to resist thing is what we really need to talk about here, because I imagine, Isabelle, that the food scientists at Frito-Lay and these gigantic snack food corporations, they know the secret. What is the combination that makes us addicted? Is the word addicted too strong a word here?
Unfortunately, no. I would like to say yes, but unfortunately, no. Chips can definitely be addictive, and actually they are, and manufacturers know that, and they play on that very, very much. One interesting thing, as I was listening to the comments you were saying just before we start talking, the different brands that you were mentioning, I don't know if people are aware of that, but most of them are made by the exact same company.
Yes.
So we have the impression that there are so many varieties, and there are many varieties, but there is that one very big company called Frito-Lay that is behind all those brands. But
Isabelle, let me just say, and the ones that I didn't read, right? But you're so right. Ruffles, I got tons of Tostitos and Doritos and Miss Vicky's, and yep, it's Frito-Lay.
And Lay's and Ruffles and Sun Chips and Cheetos and many others. It's all Frito-Lay. All this to say that there's a brand and there's a chip for everyone, definitely. And by the way, 97% of Canadian households are buying chips So it's probably the most popular snack here in Canada. This being said, just to go back to your question, why do we love chips so much? Actually, it's a combination of different factors. Of course, all those companies, they are very efficient in terms of marketing and merchandising. But besides that, the chip itself, because of the taste and the texture, we combine a trio of attributes that are, I would say, explosive. Fat, salt, and crunchy texture. When you melt, you mix that all together and you do it well, because of course, if you put too much of something, it's not going to be pleasant anymore. But when you can balance that perfectly, not only it provides flavor, but also mouthfeel, which is a feeling of fullness. And besides the fact that it tastes really good, chips are one of those foods that make us feel good. And it truly makes us feel good by stimulating the secretion of endorphins, which is a type of hormone that is produced in our brain. And endorphins have the power to inhibit pain and to produce a feeling of euphoria, so intense pleasure. In other words, what I'm saying here is that chips are creating a similar effect in our brain than natural opioids. So it's quite powerful.
Wow. We are unlocking the secrets of the chip with Isabelle Marquis. She's a food marketing expert and a nutritionist. Isabelle, you just mentioned the trifecta there. Let's go over that again because I don't want anyone to miss it. You said fat, salt, and the crunchiness. That's the trifecta?
Exactly. And of course, if you add above that the seasoning, I mean, there are secrets in there. Of course, every company has their secret recipe, and they play on that very much. I was hearing the different flavors that people love the most. Generally speaking, are classics, which are, just the regular chips or just sea salt and vinegar and barbecue, ketchup. Those are the most the preferred flavors, generally speaking. But most companies, yes, they will stimulate sales and try to grab our attention by launching on a regular basis all those new flavors so that we will buy our regular bag of chips, but also that new flavor just to try, just for fun, because we love innovation and we love to try new things. But we generally go back to the basic with that famous trio of fat, salt, and crunchy.
Isabelle, is there anything that we can do to fight against the fact that they know what we're so easily addicted to? Like, is there a drink we should have next to the potato chip that can fight back from eating the whole bag?
That's a very good question, and actually, it's hard to answer. You'll probably agree with me that very often we tend to drink something sweet while we eat chips. To compensate the fact that it's so salty that at some point our taste buds are just saturated and they just can't take salt anymore. But our brain tells us that, it's good and it makes us feel good, so we want more. And to get more, we will compensate with sugar, which is one of the reasons why we keep repeating, be careful with chips, because it's not only that we eat too much chips, but also what we drink with it is not necessarily very healthy. I would say it truly depends on you and your taste buds. For some, having just water with it is probably not super good in terms of pleasure, but definitely quite efficient to kind of wash out the flavor in your mouth. But at the same time, I would tend to think that if you have something so neutral as water, you would probably eat even more chips because you will clean your mouth every single time you drink, so you will just want to have more and more and more.
Isabelle?
Yes.
Isabelle, we got to leave it there, but I want to thank you for coming on the program. I know this is your first time on CJAD 800. I'm very sure it won't be the last. Thank you so much, Isabelle.
That's very kind of you. Have a good day.
Isabelle Marquis, food marketing expert and a nutritionist.